Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday night meeting of the Santa Fe Theosophical Society. Here we encourage open-minded inquiry into world religions, philosophy, science, and the arts in order to understand the wisdom of the ages and to respect the unity of all life. Now, Pamela will lead us in a 2-minute meditation.
Breathe deeply, close your eyes. Breathe through your nose, make a count of 5. Do it again. A third time. Hold on the 4th time for another count of 5. Release. Try to make the release longer than the intake. Another time. Count of 5 in, 5 hold, 10 release. Think of your lungs rising and falling. How your lungs power your entire body, everything within it. Oxygen courses through your veins. Life courses through your veins. The body is a sacred thing, an amazing thing. All its parts functioning for the betterment of the self. We are eternal beings. We have always been here. We will always be here. Time is an illusion. The sea moves in its eternal state of being. Constant energy. We are part of the sea. We breathe in. We breathe out. We create the waves of our own reality.
Ding.
Ding. It's been the time.
That was good, Pamela. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Nice. I liked it.
You do.
We do need a gong or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be like a whole gong district in Santa Fe. I mean, like a whole street with just these sorts of shops. There's got to be.
It's
Oh,
yes.
I wanted to tell you all something interesting. In Santa Fe, they just opened a new museum called the Vladimir Contemporary. It's a renovated old building, but it's a big deal in Santa Fe. Large museum of contemporary art. And in it, and I wanted to show you guys, but I'm afraid to turn off the recording because it's on my phone and I'm on my phone. But if Tim gets a chance to go there, I don't think we have anybody else in the neighborhood that could go there to see it. There's a piece by a theosophist, and the blurb on it is uses that as part of the definition of what he's drawing. And the drawing looks like the Kabbalah or the chakra system with energy flowing. It's on the second floor. I'll
Very nice.
send you a notice about it, Tim, and then you can share it next week, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to go check that out too. So,
Mhm.
I think Tim needs to have a gong next week.
yeah, all right, I'm gonna go down to the Gong District and I'm gonna buy one. Okay.
So I'm gonna jump right into it. I don't know if you have anything more formal,
That was my formal.
Tim, that you're wanting to do, or if we're just okay, cool. So I don't know, like it just felt like chapter 7 was instructions, right? Primarily, instructions on how to go through this. It's almost as if I don't know. This is the vibe I got, was that chapter 7 should have been chapter 1. You know, it went through some very detailed instructions on how to go through this, the right mindset to have as you're going through it, not to get caught up in some of the terminology here because it's older. Um, they refer to the word Aryan, right? Talking about that, and then how it's geared more towards like and the big books like this too, right? Where it talks about like man this, man that, man this. Um, I liked it though. I liked how it broke it down.
So the first thing that I underlined, right, first page, with the same spirit that you have when solving a puzzle, investigating a mystery, or trying to discover something previously unknown. And right next to that, I wrote like scientific. It's what I've noticed with a lot of these, experiments and stuff like the. I've got a couple of friends at the lab that are scientists, and a lot of times they go into their experiments with no expectation. Like they've got these substances or whatever, and they're just not every time, but a lot of times, and they're just going to see what happens. And so then they record the data, and then they do this other thing, and they just see what happens. And so the experiments themselves are planned out, and well regulated. But a lot of times the data that they're getting back, or the results from these experiments, it's just, it kind of is what it is. They're just seeing what it does, what it happens, how it reacts, and then accepting, what they find. And then they take that
Mm.
data and try to go, how can they apply this to different applications or to different pieces of equipment or whatever it is. So sometimes they do go in like focus, like this is what we're going to do because this is what we think we're going to find. But then there's also the times where they go in and we have no idea what we're going to find. Let's see what happens. And so that's kind of what I thought, when you start experimenting, like the theoretical divisions and stuff, like they come up with a theory and then they try it and then they just see what happens. It's like, so it's kind of like that, just
Mm.
that's the way I took it anyways. That kind
Yeah,
of
I
spirit.
underlined the same passage, Tim, and what I thought with the piece about the puzzle, but approach it the way you approach solving a puzzle. And I thought, oh, well, it's, you approach it like the book's a puzzle that you have to be able to unpack and figure out, but the book's actually the thing that's going to solve the puzzle in your mind. Right. It's like the key to unsolve the puzzle within, and it's your understanding of like getting the book, which is going to unlock the puzzle of like your own psyche. I thought that was certainly fits with my experience of reading The Secret Doctrine, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm expanding this, area of consciousness in my mind to get the concept, but it's the expansion in consciousness that was the real goal, right?
Mm.
But it almost has to be developed with that level of remove. If that makes sense.
The puzzle of the mind. I think everybody, right? Any time, if you actually like, talk about that metaphor, anytime that someone's, building a puzzle, we start with the corners, right? We start with the corners, and then like you do the outside edges because they have the straight edges and stuff, and then you work your way into the center. I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. I don't
I
know.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weird amorphous pieces, it's like, okay, there's no real edges on here. But fit someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with
Oh,
that.
Johnny, could you say that one more time? I didn't get it.
Yeah.
The puzzle.
Yeah, so like when you're building a puzzle, you always you spread out all the pieces, and like you look for the ones that have the straight edges, the outs that make the border, the corners, and then the outside edges, and then you start to look at the colors, right? What color matches this edge piece, what shape fits this edge piece. So this one has a unique shape, so I know that when I'm looking for this piece, it's going to be a unique shape on that one that I can stick into that one.
Yeah, you can generally group things into categories, even though you're not really putting it together, but you're sorting it out over time, right? So that when you're ready to put it together, you have the right pile to pick from, right?
Exactly.
I mean, all of the stages I think work.
Yeah.
Kind of the way he described the secret doctrine in the following pages, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of here and there, and it bounces around, and she'll be talking about one subject, get off on another, and then work her way back into it. It's like you got to find all the edges, and then
a little idea. It's been in my head for a long time, but it just seems to fit what Johnny was talking about. Neurons, how neurons work in the brain. They look like that. They look like a puzzle with pieces that fit together. And electromagnetic connections and sugar, it creates those connections. I just find this sort of interesting. And I have a theory about psychedelics. The psychedelics break the connections that sugars create, which is what creates a different point of view of the world. That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, they say they open up new neural pathways, and there's a lot to that for sure. I've done I wouldn't say a lot of study on that stuff. I'm not a guru or anything, but I've definitely looked into. I've done some experimenting myself, and also some study, as well, like looking into that and what it does to the brain and all that. It's very interesting, very, very interesting, and we're starting to see, I think, as a society, it really helping a lot of people, man, a lot of people. I'm not advocating psychedelics. I just want to make that clear. I'm just saying.
No, maybe you got your puzzle put together the wrong way, right? Sometimes you gotta pull some stuff out before you get started on the right track again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some pieces jammed in there sideways that aren't where they should be.
Well, there is an argument about psychedelics that says they should never have been placed in Schedule I category of prohibited substances, because there was a whole bunch of medical stuff being studied in regards to them, how they could help different kinds of psychiatric problems, until they were placed into Schedule I. Today, I'm sure you guys probably know this, microdosing is becoming popular, and it seems to me like a good idea. In other words, I don't have anything, I don't think they should ever have been an anathema, a moral or an ethical problem. Well, actually, I think personally, the political point, all drugs should be not controlled substances. Out of all the drugs, alcohol and tobacco and caffeine cause more problems than anything that's been prohibited ever. So that's my point of view.
I know we've got a friend that's in school to be a nurse practitioner, and she just went to a big conference up in Colorado about using psychedelics, mushrooms, psilocybin, and marijuana for medical reasons or whatever. So it's gaining traction. It's getting attention from the medical community.
Yeah.
I like the word demarcate. I was just gonna say, like, the word demarcate the field, like that next heading or whatever. I looked at the definition, right? Though it was to separate or to distinguish. Sometimes little words like that kind of make something more.
Yeah.
Help me a little bit.
Actually, right there in that paragraph, I had underlined, the value of occult study, however, is in its quality rather than its quantity.
I underline that as well. Seems like that's kind of
certainly, yeah.
I was like, that's kind of common though, right? I mean, like even with like material possessions, right? I would rather have, 2 shirts that are like really soft and really nice than 5 shirts that are itchy that I don't like. So go ahead, John. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's just that's how the Secret Doctrine's been for me. Like when I was reading the Pro-Em, I was reading the Pro-Em. Like that was the thing I was really pouring myself into. And I didn't feel like I was reading the Secret Doctrine at that point because I was reading the Pro-Em of the Secret Doctrine. And so once I really felt like I had the Pro-Em down and was like, okay, I think I understand this enough that I can move on. It was like, okay, well, now I'm reading stanza 1 of the Secret Doctrine, you know, and that's all I was reading at the time was stanza 1. And you know, there's enough to pour into there in any one little section where it's like, it would be nice to be able to say I've read the Secret Doctrine. I can't say that. I have spent a lot of time with individual sections of the Secret Doctrine. And for me, that's kind of how that rings true. It's like, yeah, it would feel good to say I read the whole thing, but the quantity is not the point. I've spent, you know, months with these individual stanzas, trying to, you know, unpack them. And it's been much more meaningful for me just doing that than when I've read entire series of other books, you know, so.
Yeah. It says it right there, to contemplate in silence those statements which have a profound meaning. It goes back to my favorite, you know, meditation. You know, meditate on this stuff, take it at your own pace. You know, once again, how do you eat an elephant? You know,
One bite at a time.
one bite at a time.
I underlined it, contemplate in silence as well. I really like that. It's hard to find that time, you know, like the only time I really have where I would be able to do that on a daily basis would be early in the morning. That I'm already, you know, I'm up at 4:30, like right into my morning routine, out the door by 5, so 5:15. So it's kind of tough. Like, I don't know if I could get up at 3:30.
Get up earlier, Tim.
Ooh,
You
that's
can do
asking
it.
a lot, man.
You're trying to run a marathon, man. You can get up at 3:30.
I need my
You
rest.
got this.
There's something interesting about Los Alamos where Tim works going on right now. Do you know about it? That they're hiring through over 3,300 new employees.
That's the
But
number
they're
they're trying to
starting,
hire this year.
but they're loading plutonium into something.
Uh-oh. We're getting off here. We're getting way off, Pamela.
And
You
but
used the, you
no,
used the
but what's
P
interesting
word
about it
on the
is that,
internet. We're being recorded.
oh yeah, we're gonna be tracked.
Yeah.
But it's the nuclear idea is a big deal, metaphysically speaking as well as physically speaking. The idea of splitting the atom is a gigantic idea as far as changing the world goes.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a little bit off topic as far as the book goes. But what was the big Hadron Collider? Remember that, like in Switzerland or something, where they
Tim, we're not going there, are we?
a little bit,
No,
yeah.
we don't need to go there.
Are we okay? We're
Well,
really going there?
This is not. I'm not going
Reel it
deep
back
into
in,
it.
man.
Wait, what did
I
you
was-
say, Tim?
That's where they discovered the boson-Higgs particle, which is what they called the God particle.
No, that was in the big collider. That's not there.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, it was in the big collider.
Yeah.
The boson Higgs.
That's the one. The Hadron Collider. They want. It's like in Switzerland or something. But so they're smashing particles, finding tinier particles, right? And every time they smash one and they get to where they can see it smaller and smaller, it's still the same. Like there's still more to go. Will it ever end?
That's a fascinating idea.
Will they ever find?
Or were you
won't
generating new
break anymore.
dimensions every time you did that?
Oh, that's a good one too.
Right? And then we're
Yep.
off in one of those dimensions. They went and fucked around. They made a bunch of copies of the goddamn thing. We're just on some fucking copy that's distorted and fucked up since 2012 because they went around and fucked up.
Put your guns away,
That's
cowboy.
one theory that's got a lot of evidence behind it.
So, all
They're
right.
gonna get us.
Did you guys see the Oppenheimer movie?
No.
No,
In
not
the
yet.
movie, right? They're going to do a test detonation of this bomb they made, and one of their concerns is that because it's like a chain reaction, you know, Like you get one piece started and it just goes, right? And there's the bomb. That's the explosion. They're like, it could keep on going and do the same reaction to every atom that exists, and we might
So
destroy the entire
destroy the
universe.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, so how much of a
Actually,
chance is that? And he's like, there's a chance, you know. I was like,
Yeah, and
blow it up
they
anyways.
just go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
with
ridiculous.
with the boson Higgs thing, one of the ideas was if they create a black hole. And that would do the same thing.
Yeah.
A non-zero
everything were destroyed,
possibility. It's a
there's all
non-zero
possibilities.
possibility, and they do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know until you try, right? Don't knock it till you try it,
So-
John.
Tim, when I was at your house, man, and you know, that one of those mornings, I think it was that first morning, we were kind of like waiting on everybody to get up. I didn't know your guys' routine, so I wanted to try to be quiet and wait on you guys to get up. And so, you know, she was still asleep, so I turned on the TV, man, and I don't know, because, you know, we were that close to the testing sites and all that stuff. I just started watching on YouTube some of the atom bomb stuff, and it just, you know, I've seen all that stuff before, just to rewatch it. You know, the fact that they were blowing stuff off in the air, in the ocean, under the ground, you know, on top, it's man, it was mind-boggling just to rewatch that stuff and to see like how much, you know, malpractice was going on, you know, and probably still is today. You know, just the lack of give a shit.
I mean, if
You
you
know, like, oh, we're just for what?
but do you call it malpractice if you don't know? If you really don't even know what
Yeah,
you've
well,
got.
but at what cost? At what cost, man? You know, at what cost? That's I don't know. Anyways, we're getting way off, dude.
All right, all right, all right.
No,
Back to the
actually,
book.
no, I don't think so. I think it is all connected.
Well, but not to chapter 7 of introducing the secret doctrine. It's not. No.
I'm
It's
going to
not.
give you a sentence from page 60 that's about what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's the third paragraph, third line. Trying to present abstract spiritual concepts using Western language is a problem. That's my ending of the sentence, is a problem. And that's what's going on with this idea. So we're talking about puzzles, and we're talking about neurons, and then we're talking about nuclear reactions and responsibility. And how is any of that separated from the puzzle?
It's
No,
all
you're
part, it's
right.
all
Everything's
one,
connected. We're learning that. Yeah, you're right. You know.
right? I underlined that same sentence. Like, swear, Pamela, you're underlining my book for me, man. But it's just like the whole thing, you know, the synonyms for various principles, planes, and beings. Yeah, it makes sense to me, right? Because you see these other languages or translations of certain things, and it just like it seems like it comes off so much more eloquently, and it just is easier to explain certain concepts and stuff when you say it in other languages. I mean, like how much stuff was written in Latin, or how much stuff's been translated from Latin, and then like how hard is it to get an accurate translation from, you know, Greek to English or Latin to English or something, or even like Hebrew to English in the Bible. Like you're not getting what they're trying to say, you know, when you put it in English. That's what I think.
Yeah, a friend of mine just posted today. He's a Buddhist, and he posted, I think reposted something that he was talking about the Lord's Prayer was translated from one language to a second language to a third. And so he posted a direct translation from Aramaic. Instead of going through two other languages to get to English, he posted directly from Aramaic. And if you read the Lord's Prayer in that translation, it sounds theosophic.
I think I've seen that before somewhere for sure. It's more organic for sure. It's not.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I've seen that.
Kind of make you want to learn Hebrew or Aramaic or something.
Yeah. Hey,
Cool.
Tim, real quick, this is off, but who had this book before me? The book that you gave me.
I did.
There's little bitty lines in it, man. They don't make a whole lot of sense to me, and they're not on every page at all.
Those are my place markers.
Okay, I was like, so because this on page 60, it's like ER is underlined on later at that bottom of that first paragraph. I was like, what's it? Is this a
I
secret code, man, or what? You know?
yeah, I read that book at work, and so when I'd get a call to go somewhere, I just put a line on the word I was on and close it up.
Oh, okay, okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah, no secret code, man.
It's actually is the secret code, but he doesn't want to tell you.
Yeah, I think one of the things with the other words is, you know, it's if you don't already have a big loaded definition behind a word, it can be something new, right? But if you're using a bunch of language that people already have familiarity with, and they've used it in a lot of other different circumstances in different ways, you have to contend with their existing knowledge of the word. Whereas if you're hearing parabram for the first time, and then you hear what it is, or you hear the definition, like that's new. Like in your mind, you're making something new. You're not trying to fit it into an existing box. Right.
Mm.
You say somebody's the king, you can compare it with every other king you've ever heard of before and be like, okay, I know what a king is, so I know what this thing is. And when they're talking about things that don't exist in our conceptions, to use words that we'd be familiar with, like it just wouldn't be accurate, right? Because it's something different. And I think that makes it harder to read, but I think it makes it easier to read too, because you don't get confused with your pre-existing thought.
Mm.
And then you have parabram right down below.
Yeah.
And this it has to do with something we were talking about. I think John asked me, Ein Sof, how would it relate to the hierarchy in the secret doctrine? And I wasn't sure, but right here it's saying it directly to parabram. But Ein Sof kabbalistically has no designation, designation. Like parabram cannot be defined. It's more than all of us together, and we are part of it.
And nothing cannot be it, or it can't have any limitation. So you can't have a qualifier of any kind, right?
So essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't got that far, but parabram is all, everything, the beginning and the end. That's what that's referring to.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the eternal. That's the thing that everything is.
Okay.
It's the goal that we're all made of from last week's chapter.
Mm.
So here's a definition for you. Parabrahm or Parabrahman in Hindu philosophy is the supreme Brahman, that which is beyond all descriptions and conceptualizations. It is described as the formless that eternally pervades everything, everywhere in the universe, and whatever is beyond. So,
Sounds good.
So way more than we could probably ever understand. Actually understand and grasp. You know, it says she uses these different words in different terms, though, because it's like, or she uses the same words and terms, I'm sorry, in different contexts, like they mean different things, because she might be talking about, you know, higher planes and lower planes or whatever. So, you know, what she means when she's speaking about the higher planes, you know, it's the same theory, if I understood this right, same theory, same idea, right? But it's a totally different level of it. So
ask your question again, Tim, please.
I was just saying,
was like, that a question?
It was kind of like I was making a statement, but I would like the statement corrected if it's wrong. And just the way I understand it is that she uses these same words and phrases, terms, to mean different things, because one area she might use a word to discuss something of a higher plane, you know, and then she might use the same word to describe something in a lower plane. And so it means it's the same thing in theory, like it's the same conception or idea, but it's different levels of it. So you're using, that's the idea, right? Same word for the conception, but not the same meaning necessarily.
That's good. That's a good observation, and I have a note that I made. There's a problem trying to use language, English language today. Like earlier, Johnny was talking about the words Aryan and using the male pronoun for describing activity of the mind or whatever. Commonly used. Only recently, somewhat has changed. We don't say mailman, we say male person. We don't say policeman, we say police person. We don't say stewardess, we say flight attendant. It's slowly but surely changing, but that's in my lifetime. Those words have started changing. And it is a problem. I'm going to read you the definition of power Brahm from the Theosophical Glossary, which is published by ULT, the United Lodge of Theosophy Publishing, which I'm not sure if John has seen it because it's not a Theosophic Society publication. But the definition is beyond Brahma, literally, the supreme infinite Brahma, absolute, the attributeless, the secondless reality, the impersonal and nameless universal principle. So basically the be all and end all.
Like Hermetics makes it way simple and just calls it the all.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Or the zero, maybe.
Yeah. Everything and nothing.
Uh-huh.
I guess, yeah, the next part right here where it says pay attention to the context, that's where it talks about, you know, the differences in time, I guess, you know, like back in 100 years ago, stuff wasn't offensive, and today it is offensive. You know, I don't really get offended too easily. So, you know, I am aware of this stuff too, though. You know, like I'm aware that Hitler took a lot of stuff and made it Nazi. You know, stuff that wasn't bad before, and like he really screwed a lot of stuff up, man.
Yes.
Like, I mean, more than the obvious, you know. It's just like all the little things, all the extra little stuff he did was terrible. Think about what if he had won the war, man? What if the Nazis had won and taken over? Like, what in the world would everything be like now?
Did you know there's the Man in the High Tower? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a series made with that premise. If Hitler had won.
Oh, dear God. I don't know. Like, I think the swastika is what I'm most angry about.
Say that again?
I said the swastika is probably the one I'm the most irritated about.
Oh, yeah. It means life. It's like the Nazis turned it into death. On page 61, bottom of the first paragraph, it uses the line gender-specific language that is used. And the comment I made about that, if you go to Romance languages, you cannot eliminate gender-specific language in Romance languages. So we should just call it a day trying to get a language that works for everybody. It won't. In Spanish, periódico is masculine, means newspaper. You know, why would a newspaper be masculine? It just is. Policia is feminine. Why would the word police be a feminine word? You can't do it. Like a lot of people in schools today, students in high school are trying to get gender non-specific language out there. So what are your pronouns? It's impossible. Maybe in the United States you could eventually do something like that, but almost impossible in the world.
Yeah, they're working for it for sure.
I know this,
you know,
like,
in AA, you know, in AA they've changed. They have a preamble, right? And it's you know, men and women, right? The words men and women are used, and they're now changing that to people. And there's been a lot of uproar about that. You know, a lot of the old timers like, by God, we're not changing the language and it's going to stay the same. And I mean, they're having whole full scale arguments about this stuff on like the international level about these two little words being changed to people, men and women to people, because of the non-gender specific stuff going on. You know, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just stating the facts. It's to watch
it's a hassle.
Yeah, and I've been to some of the state conferences and stuff on that, and to watch the haggle and the freaking deliberation go on over two words. You know, it's insane. And you know, who knows, maybe it's for the better, you know. I don't know.
Johnny, it's not really about the two words. It's about the idea of trans humans and binary humans
Right.
and asexual humans, including everyone. Like we don't call ourselves a Christian nation because it excludes a whole bunch of people. I mean, a lot of people do call it a Christian nation, and it excludes a whole bunch of people.
Right.
But still, personally, I think it's too complicated, and I don't want to be a part of it. This gender specific stuff, but I do understand why they're doing it.
Well, I think, if you're using a theosophic worldview and you believe in reincarnation and multiple existences for people and incarnations, to get like super caught up on this physical body is kind of short-sighted. And
That's true.
right. And so the idea, the theosophic worldview transcends gender. And that's why when it says universal brotherhood, I don't think anybody should be offended. If you believe in this theosophic worldview, Pamela, you recognize that you have been or will be a man at some point, and you doesn't negate what you are today. But again, this is about having an expansive worldview that takes multiple incarnations into account. And so, as I look at female people, I see people like me, in a current state. I don't see something that's diametrically opposed to me, or that we need to be divided up, right? Because in using the theosophic lens, there's no dividing it up, right? It's just our current state of affairs. And I think that's appropriate. I think that's the way to go. I think all this slicing things up and trying to get everybody to be special and unique and different, that's not the truth. The truth is we're all the same. We're all have something holding us together. And if the word brotherhood, really upsets you so much, I just don't know what it is about it that does that, because it's tremendously powerful to me. I think it discounts the conception because of this political correctness, just much as treating the swastika like a Nazi symbol discounts the conception, right, because of its popular appearance, even though the conception is something that's much greater than what they pretend it to be.
Yeah.
So
I think that right now in the society that we have a lot of humans having unique human experiences, and they don't quite know how to process them. And so you just, with confusion and with a lack of understanding, people get angry. And so they're pointing the finger and they're trying to pick and choose what the problem is. And I don't even necessarily know that there is a problem. I think that this is just kind of something that we're going to go through as a society, and we'll come out on the other end. And I don't think that you should change a bunch of words and a bunch of old literature, because I think you lose what the author was trying to get across. And so if you don't like it, if it offends you, then don't read it. But don't change it.
Yep.
That's altering history. I mean, that's why
there's the possibility you don't understand it too. You might want to be open to.
I mean, so Blavatsky uses the word man a lot, right? She talks about man, but she does not talking about males. It's just humankind.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, that's what she's talking about.
And I just don't understand why people get offended over that instead of just understand what was meant. But I'm not one of those classifications of humans, so maybe that's why I don't understand why it's offensive too. So
there's a Buddha statue which is half male and half female, and ultimately the ideal human would be hermaphroditic. And by hermaphroditic, I don't mean have double genitalia. I really mean have the energy equal or close to equal of both male and female energy, which I don't even like using the words male and female. That we need better words.
But and that's
masculine
discussed in
feminine, right? I mean,
yeah. So that's discussed in Hermetics a lot too, that everybody's got the masculine and feminine aspects, just like they have positive and negative aspects, and like light and dark, good and evil, like all of the duality or whatever, like masculine and feminine is included in all of that, like Johnny and his beard, but he can have a feminine side to him every once in a while when you embrace it, and it's good, man. It's the balance that makes us good people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the truth. I think that's the truth we'll come to, right? Is that's how people are. And it's not so easily defined. And, I think the septenary principle applies here, where there's, countless combinations that people can be in any number of ways. And, if you try and really individualize things, you're gonna find out everybody's unique and the same at the same time.
Staying
So I
on
learned
page.
I learned something. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Nope, you go ahead.
Well, I'm skipping ahead. I'm at 63 now, and we don't have to, all go there. But something that was very interesting to me and I knew that there was exoteric and esoteric. I knew that those were two separate words before, but I did not truly understand the meanings. I had never defined those things as being separate. And to be honest, I knew, but I didn't know, right? That those were different things. And so, esoteric, this is just the definitions I pulled up on Google, right? Esoteric is the inner workings of existence and topics pertaining to the inner life of man. Exoteric is the external workings of existence that is seen and pertaining to what is seen. So you've got internal and external, right? Basically, is what I'm hearing there.
I've always kind of defined esoteric as like the hidden secrets, and exoteric as, the out in the forefront.
Yeah, exoteric, the mundane, and esoteric, hermetic, or occult.
There you go.
Going back to page 61, since we jumped ahead, the word Manu, and this is in the second paragraph.
Right where I was going.
The reason I'm focusing on it is because we were talking about Power Brahm, and this is one of those words, one of those Sanskrit words that in order to understand a whole bunch of stuff that she's writing about, we need to understand what that means. Used in the context of a root race or in the context of a round, the two being different entities fulfilling similar roles in different fields of action. Also, I put, this is my note, a personage. So the word can be used in the relationship to a root race, in relationship to a round or a manvantara, or as a personage that brings some sort of information to the wider public.
So in the Hindu tradition, Manu is like the progenitor or the originator of the human race and the giver of the religious laws. That would
be the here when it says root race, that would be that what you're saying.
Yeah, the originator of the human race. So what would it be? What would the Manu be in context of a round? Like what would a
I don't know
definition be?
But if you give me a second, I'm going to look it up in the glossary. Because it's great glossary.
I don't have one of those. I sure could use one though.
Yeah, this is published out of Los Angeles. Yeah, it's called the Theosophic Publishing House. It comes out of LA. The definition it gives here is the great Indian legislator. So here we're talking about a personage. The name comes from the Sanskrit root man, which then translates as to think. Mankind really, there we go to the race, but stands for Swayambhuva, the first of the Manus, who started, from Swayambhuva, the self-existent, hence the logos and the progenitor of mankind. Manu is the first legislator, almost a divine being.
So that's where it applies into
clarify a lot, but that's a lot.
Yeah, that's the giver of the religious law section of it. It's a lot to unpack, not only like the actual definitions and the knowledge part of it all, but then to apply it and to get the esoteric meanings and teachings behind all of the stuff she wrote. It is a lot.
That's why quality rather than quantity.
No. Well, page 62, I underlined there is no hurry to advance in the book, right?
Mm.
Read it once to get a general sense of what is being discussed, and then read it again slowly, trying to understand the points being made in greater detail. There is no hurry to advance in the book.
I have that underlined too. That is pretty funny.
Yep, you gotta give Pablo Sender some credit here, man. I mean, that, I don't know a whole lot about the guy. But the amount of time that this man had to have spent unpacking the secret doctrine to get this, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I just already have a lot of respect for the guy. I don't want to put him up on a pedestal or anything, but it just seems like he's dedicated a lot of his time, as we all will, right? If we continue on this path, unpacking that thing, but then to write another book about it, understanding that it's pretty hard to understand. And so writing a book about it, I mean, that's just, is he still around, I guess?
Yeah,
Yes, I
he's not
looked him
that
up.
old. He lives in California, I think.
Right.
He's had to have been born and raised in this, I would think, to be as knowledgeable as he is. I don't know that for
I
a
think he
fact.
studied for 40 years.
Yeah.
So he's not that young either. I might not remember correctly, but I had this idea. He's been around for a while.
He's the same age as me, so thanks for saying he's young, Tim. And I think he joined the TS in 1996. So yeah, it's been out a long time. And I think he's second or third generation Theosophist from Argentina. So the head one of the people I was with in Illinois is a friend of his, and from Argentina as well. She's the national secretary.
She said she might want to come to one of our meetings.
Oh, cool. Which is a lot about this.
Do what?
I'm sure she had filled us in a lot about this stuff that we're talking about, right? I mean, she's studied with Pablo on this stuff.
Mm.
Our current Manu, Tim, is for this round is Vaivatsu. Vaivatsu Manu is the current Manu, in case you were curious who was
For the round that we're currently in, and for the
fruit
race.
There's pictures in India of him, and it's currently on his watch. He's the one leading the boat out of Pralaya on the journey of the Manvantara. Vaivatsu.
Mm.
So I'm gonna.
I can
not included in chapter 7.
I can read it to you. Vivasa, the definite. I mean, what it says, the paragraph. Well, the name of the seventh Manu, which is what John was talking about, the forefather of the post-diluvian race, or our own fifth humankind, a reputed son of Surya, the sun. He became, after having been saved in an ark built by the order of Vishnu from the deluge. The father of Ishwaku, the founder of the solar race of kings. And then it says, see Surya Avansa, data.
So
Yeah, that's a lot,
Well, and that's the thing is like, well, is Vaivatsu God? I mean, I don't know, kinda. It depends what you think of God, right? I mean, right? If he's the one steering the boat that all of this is taking place on, I can see where people would think that. But in a theosophic worldview, right? He's a dude doing a job. And there's lots of dudes doing lots of jobs in the theosophic pantheon. And none of them get heralded up as like the one guy, because in the end, we're all that guy.
Yeah.
Right. When we say, what is it about Parabon, which is like, what is we? What is us? Right. You can't even say it because it makes it other than you. So anyway, Manus.
Yeah.
I want to skip ahead a little bit and then refer to this little pamphlet that I've got. But on page 65, there's the swastika with the little symbols in it. And they're tiny, right? Kind of hard to see. But this book, Sinzar, the mystery language.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then down here, is the symbols. And then this paragraph right here, I don't know if you see them in there. They're in there. But the figure on the bottom says colored pebbles from Mas d'Azil Arige, which is South France. So these symbols, this is the representation of some colored pebbles that were found drawn in South France, like ancient stuff. And then this says
That's Tim, that is in this book. It's coming up. Those
Is
symbols
it?
are coming up. I think
Yeah.
it's chapter 10.
This kind of tied in with what we were talking about. The symbol with the second one in the archaic symbol shows a disc with a point in it. The first differentiation in the periodical manifestations of the ever eternal nature, sexless and infinite. So it's no gender, right? In the beginning.
When you boil anything down to its essence, right? When you strip everything else away, that's what you end up with. And you can't strip anything away from that.
But this goes down through the fourth root race, talking about how, gender became. What if, hear me out, what if, right? Started off no gender and then evolved its way to two different genders. Is it evolving its way back out?
Or is there something else, right?
Or a
I
third,
mean, we
maybe.
see it in our society today, the non-gender specific stuff. Are we heading in that direction? Who knows, man?
I mean, they say there's nothing new, right? Nothing's new.
I mean,
It's
we're
all
headed
been,
towards
it's all happened.
non-physical. I mean, right? We're headed towards where people have entire existences in electronic forms as avatars.
Yes.
And they never meet as actual people. Like, what does their physicality have to do with a lot of things if you're never engaging in a physical realm? I mean,
right.
A lot of stuff's getting weird. and a lot of stuff you have to throw in there. But there's entire classes of people that their interactions online and as avatars far outweighs their physical interactions.
Very true.
The two paragraphs above the swastika, I've got a line. It's not even a full sentence underlined, but it is a white disc with a dull black ground represents the cosmos in eternity before the reawakening of still slumbering energy. And I just really like that thought, man. Like if you sit there and process that, the reawakening of still slumbering energy, and like I kind of think about that like the cosmos being formed, right? Like our universe coming into being. I like to think about it being asleep and just kind of waking up, instead of like some chaotic, destructive, all this stuff happening. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just like, it's time for a cup of coffee, man. Like, let's create existence.
Well, it's the great breath, right? It's either in or out, and there's a little bit of nirvana in between. And right, and then it wakes up and starts breathing out again.
A thing about the great breath, just anyway, there's a new way of killing people in the United States. Put them in a room and have them breathe. What they're breathing is pure nitrogen.
Is this like death row?
I just find this macabre.
Are people doing
We're
that?
talking about like an airtight room?
Alabama. They haven't done it yet. They're premising it as a way to kill people.
Well, yeah, if you put people in an airtight room and have them
they'll die too.
breathing on each other, yeah. I mean, they're gonna
It'll take
die.
longer though. Nitrogen will do it faster.
Yeah.
So this is like death sentence stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, she went
Capital
morbid
punishment.
real quick, man.
This has been a dark meeting overall, guys.
Yeah, she's gone to like splitting atoms and Pamela. Come on, man, pull it together.
I mean,
Oh my
look
goodness.
at this is how to study the study. Yeah, wait till we get into this really deep stuff.
Oh gosh, I know. Yeah, I guess that's the end of it. But 64, I still had a few things underlined. The primary aim is to understand the reality that the words point to without getting stuck on the pointer itself. That was something I underlined for my own personal self to remember. I I think I just felt like when I read that, I was like, I could probably get stuck on the pointers and not, on certain things and not go to the deeper meanings. Not, I don't know.
That's happened in my secret doctrine group where, somebody, well, actually, she says this, and what actually happened is that, and it's like, okay, well, you're technically right, but I mean, do you get the point? Do you get what we're trying to arrive at? And again, if you're nitpicking the details of it, you're never going to see the larger point. So you just kind of have to gloss over some of this stuff and take it as it is, because if you get caught in those little details, that's what you'll do the whole time. I mean, there's plenty of that stuff to try and like, does this make sense? And does this fit? And does this accurate? And is this, did this come from who? And she doesn't cite this source. You can get all nitpicky about it, or you can just kind of flow with it. I think he's really warning you about like getting too like technical. It's not a history book.
Yeah, I get the meaning of the
it's not
parable.
academics.
Yeah, understand the meaning of the parable. Don't fight over the details of the story.
Yeah. One thing I've said before about her and the secret doctrine, and this sounds terrible. I believe it. I don't believe things easily. I have never found a contradiction. But what John's talking about in a study group where people argue points, the arguing of the point is not a bad thing in and of itself because it allows you to get to truth. There's a line on page 63 that refers to this idea. It says that it is likely that any given student will not have an adequate knowledge in all these traditions to be able to grasp everything Blavatsky says in her impressive display of erudition. The amount of knowledge she has is so extraordinary. And yes, I admire Pablo Sender, but compared to her, there's no comparison. Right. And I admire a whole bunch of other students of theosophy, but she is incredible. And the other thing I think about her, that she could not have gotten all this information from her own brain.
Oh, no way. No way. Absolutely not.
Especially not with all the layers to it all. How could you, I mean, I could see somebody writing the books if the only purpose was like a textbook, right? Like, because people write textbooks all the time. But all the underlying esoteric teachings and all of the stuff that you really got to sift through and find for yourself, and everything that it does seem to open up when you study it in a certain manner, like, yeah, it's too not human for me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think my favorite line out of all this chapter 7, man, because I'm a meditation guy. I fancy myself to be anyways. That's, what is it? Go beyond the concepts on page 65. It says the study itself can be transformed into a meditation practice, which is what I do with most of the reading I do these days anyways. I said, and I wrote what I do. I said, when reading the more powerful paragraphs, new ideas and concepts, I've found if I breathe the words in with understanding and exhale the lack of and let it sink in, I try to do that, right? Like John was saying, I gloss over some of the stuff. If I don't truly understand it, I can spend some time, yes, looking into it. I think that's good, but I'm not going to sit there and spend weeks and weeks and weeks on one sentence or one paragraph. And who knows? Maybe I will. Maybe I need to do that with some of this stuff. But from what we've been reading, I've not found the need to do that. I can get a couple pages in the morning, no big deal. Do my meditation on it and feel satisfied, walking out the door and kind of carry it through the day,
The same page that you were on, Johnny, and the last sentence says, enter into a dialogue with the text, and if you will, dance with it, responding appropriately to its different movements. It's a great line. Love that line.
I know the more we go through this book, the more I want to actually do a secret doctrine study after this.
Well, I calculated this is going to take us 6 months to get through it. And I think that'll be a good point to go into the secret doctrine. We'll have a good foundation. In other words, if we do this one chapter a week, it'll take 6 months to get through it from the beginning.
Not bad.
I wanted to go to page 63 for a minute because I did something that I find interesting, but I'd like some conversation on it, where it says the 4 basic ideas, and then it goes to list them: meditative study, prepare the ground, understand the words, reflect on the concepts. What I wrote about those 4 things was meditative study. I put illusion. Prepare the ground, I put materialism. Understand the words, psychology. And reflect on the concepts, the fractal universe.
You
If
did,
anybody wants to say anything about that.
well, there was a last one, which was go beyond the concepts.
Well, the fractal universe does do that
Yeah.
because it's a repetition.
Or just say like where it said meditative study, I kind of thought of
The
that.
first one, the second one, oh no, wait, yeah, where it says meditative study, I put illusion.
Yeah. But then the 4.
My own definition of that section.
Yeah. I mean, that's, it did say to take those 4 basic concepts and like maybe jot them down so that when you are studying, you do take a chunk of the secret doctrine to study, you can have just those little things right there to remember, so, and a breakdown of those wouldn't be bad, like your little definitions of them all. Something like that would be good for me to have with them too, just as, because maybe reflect on the concepts or understand the words or something. I don't know. It could get kind of dull, I guess, just that, so maybe if I added something to it, added my own version to it after reading these little sections, maybe not dull, but maybe something I would understand personally more. I don't know. Just a thought.
Oh, I think it's good idea. I never can remember any rules, which is why I can't do math. I mean, I can understand math as an abstract concept, but ask me to figure out something, I don't know. Maybe if I can think of it abstractly, but I can't do it concretely. So Vivaswatu Manu, I've heard of, and I could never tell you off the top of my head who Vivaswatu Manu is.
I had to look it up. I had to double check. I thought I had the name down, but I did double check.
Yeah, it was correct. Yeah.
So maybe we go and kind of, instead of having like a list of rules to study with, right? Maybe it's just more of like a mindset that encompasses all the rules, and you just kind of try to bring yourself to that mindset before you start.
When I did it, we did our first secret doctrine meeting, and I wasn't super satisfied with the way it went. I didn't think I was gonna get it. And so I said, hey, I don't even remember us talking about the 3 fundamental principles, and we blew right past that in our reading. It's like, if we don't understand that, I think we need to, go over this stuff. And they were like, oh, be our guest, John. And and so that's when I started making the PowerPoint presentations to put on at our secret doctrine meetings. And I'm not suggesting I want to do this, but I'm just sharing my experience. But but reading the material, really having to understand what it was about enough so I could make these slides for it, and then like thinking about it, make sure, did I get the most important parts of this stanza in here, and then and then really sitting on it and then sharing it with others and having to like speak it out loud and like understand it well enough to share it. I mean, it really did a tremendous job of making me reinforce the concepts and like get it. And I don't know if I didn't have that mechanism in place to like really kind of go through this multi-step process, just by virtue of making it work. I don't know if I would have got it quite the same. And other members of my group are now putting on the presentation since we finished the stanzas, and they're doing an awesome job too. And they're doing the same thing, putting themselves under just a ton of pressure, to be able to compose something like this and put out a really high quality product for other people to see. But everyone just raves about the amount of learning they're getting by virtue of like doing this as an exercise. So So anyway, there's lots of different ways you could do it. That's certainly been something that's helped me.
Nice.
Anyway,
That's
Well,
good.
it is 12 minutes after 9. I guess we've got through the chapter. That's all the time we'll take for this evening.
Tim,
Yes, ma'am.
remember I read that thing that's in the Secret Doctrine, at least the volume that I have. The poem was sort of a poem.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I think the first time we got together, maybe I read it. I wanted to read it again, if that would be okay, because I forgot something about it. And it's just beautiful.
Would you like to make that the way we end the meeting?
Yes.
All right. Sounds great to me.
Okay, so it has to do with the way I read it. There's a rhythm. I didn't read it with the rhythm. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
In primeval times a maiden, beauty is daughter of the ether, past for ages her existence in the great expanse of heaven. 700 years she wandered, 700 years she labored, ere her firstborn was delivered. Ere a beauteous duck descending, hastens towards the water mother. Lightly on the knee she settles, finds a nesting place befitting, where to lay her eggs in safety, lays her eggs within at pleasure. 6 the golden eggs she lays them, then a 7th, an egg of iron.
I do like that.
I'll tell you something about it. It's the rhythm of Hiawatha by Wordsworth. And Wordsworth got the rhythm of Hiawatha from the Kalevala. This that I read is from the Kalevala. I just thought this was weird. The rhythm is that of Hiawatha, but it came first.
Hmm.
Do you have a name for that? Does that poem have a name, or is that just a? So does that poem have a name?
It's not. It's from the Kalevala, which is a poem, but it's a prose poem. It's a book-length poem.
You could
And
probably find it. You could probably find it on the internet, Tim. I'm sure.
yes, you can find it. I found it in a library.
Yeah.
I like it. I added it to our format, our meeting format. It's official.
Cool.
All right, people, all you beautiful they thems. It's been a wonderful meeting. I did
So
notice.
are you
That
gonna
was
come
the
up
end of
with
part
like a
1.
slogan? Oh, okay. Okay.
A clothing line,
Yeah. Mhm.
maybe.
now we're getting some teachings next. That was the how-to part. Now
Yep.
we're gonna get into some actual teachings.
Oh, yes, that's right. I noticed
Yes.
that. It gets meaty.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, we've just been
Nice.
warming up so far.
It gets meaty right
Sharp,
when we're
sharp.
really getting good at not eating meat.
Okay. I had my veggie dogs for dinner tonight.
Did you?
I did.
I had some fish. I didn't do it good.
Fuck you.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Signing off.
Good night,
Bye,
everybody.
y'all.
That's enough of it.
Night.
Yep.